welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Aaron Cook.
Jeff Fischer.
Jay Donovan.
Me, Todd Novak, and we've got a super special guest today.
Hank Donovan.
That's Hank Donovan of Rattlesnake Cables. He's calling in from...
Missoula, Montana.
Woohoo!
Yeah, Missoula, Montana.
Hank Donovan. We got two Donovans? Two Donovans on
Two
here.
Donovans.
Two Irishmen.
The Two Donovan show.
That's good news. That's good. That's a great omen for this podcast.
That's good. I hadn't gone.
We'll have
there.
a drink afterwards.
Okay, sounds good.
Except you're like 900 miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Hank, we're super excited that you called in. I think we've got a really great episode ahead of us. We've got a lot of great questions, and you've got a fantastic product. So that usually means success from a podcast standpoint, provided we don't end up being idiots the whole time.
Well, I can't promise anything.
No
promises.
Hasn't stopped us yet.
Anyways, all right, so let's talk about what's happening this week in your guys' music worlds. Aaron, go.
Oh, thanks. So let's see. I know last time I talked about ART tube or mic tube, whatever it's called. Well, I procured one.
You procured it.
I did.
Is that legal?
Yeah, I bought it. Does that work better for you?
That's fine.
Okay, so I purchased one off of Reverb. I found a good deal on one, and I haven't used it yet, which is the bad news. So the next time I track vocals, I will definitely use it.
So what'd you get?
The cheapest one.
Okay.
No, I did a little research on all of them. They have like a few tube mic pre's, and some of the reviews that I was reading, it's like, if you're not sure, just get in with the cheap one. You probably won't be sorry. Obviously, you're not buying a professional tube pre, but so I bought an amateur gateway model in. So
cool.
Yeah, and I also was
like the Coors Light of.
No, might be more like Natural Light.
Okay, Natty Light.
Milwaukee's best.
Or Keystone.
Wiedemann.
There's not many left, so you want to just round that out?
Schlitz.
We're getting to
Black.
the bottom.
So, okay, so that's cool. So you're going to get on
Schaefer.
that this week. How much was it? You mind sharing that?
It was used, so I bought it from a guy from Cincinnati, and I feel really bad. I'm not throwing him props right now. I just can't remember who it was, but I got it for like $35. So yeah, I mean there's hardly anything invested into it. I did investigate looking into getting a tube upgrade for that, but I started reading some things where I don't know how signal passes through stuff. That's why I look at you, Jeff, because that's more of your bag.
Uh-oh, something happened over here. Already off track.
Oh my gosh.
That was like the Three Stooges.
I couldn't hear Jay, and I said, hey, you got to lean over into the mic. And he couldn't hear me. So he pulled off one headphone, and I proceeded to whisper into the other. Oh, we're idiots. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's awesome that you got that pedal broken.
It's great. Great pedal.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So yeah, long
okay.
story short, I read that upgrading the tube on that is not really worth it because it really doesn't do a whole lot. So yeah,
That's fine.
something about an LED sort of lighting up behind the tube to give it some.
I'm having LED problems with some of my pedals, too.
Well, no, but it's like to make its perception, to make the tube, make it look like it's doing something. There's an LED behind the tube to make it light up.
Oh, like a Hughes and Kenner kind of amp or something like that, right?
So yeah, I can't wait to really start getting into that and see if I notice any difference whatsoever. Jeff,
That's good stuff. Jeff.
What?
Jeff.
Yeah, so what's new is this rattlesnake cable that we're using in our our recording setup that we have right here, right now. In this mess of snakes and wires.
This is true.
It saved the day.
This is like, if you could see a picture of it, it's a jumbled mess of stuff trying to get this
I'm gonna take a
wire
picture of
together.
Yeah, it's worthy of it taking. Yeah, so I brought my cable in to say, hey guys, look at this awesome cable. And they go, perfect. That's going to fix our broadcast today.
Great, we're one cable short.
So Hank, you can go ahead and market that as a loop cable.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, you should get a picture
interface
on
cable.
Instagram or something. And
Oh yeah, Rattlesnake Cable siding. I will have to caveat that mine. I put an identification tape. You know, a lot of musicians do that.
I never have.
You
Me
haven't?
either. Never.
I've seen it. Anyways, yeah, it doesn't come with awesome checkered duct tape on it, but mine does. Actually, Aaron, that's a good point. When you take that, make sure you roll, like, let's get the full effect of that cable.
Oh yeah.
So
on it.
yeah,
That's where I'm stopping. That's all I got.
yeah, the name, man. Twist that sucker. Let's see that logo. It's got a sweet logo on it. I actually put the sticker on my computer so I can tell the difference between the other 1,000 Macs here. So anyways, yeah, Jeff said, hey, let's use that cable, and it's working out fine.
Actually,
so far.
Aaron said, hey, let's use that cable. I'm like, that might work.
You're welcome.
Let's do that.
Hank, have you ever used the cables for other reasons besides cable?
Guitar cable.
Guitars.
besides passing signal, I guess I use it for a foot switch for an amp selector switch to like turn reverb on and off.
Huh.
So I mean that's still in the ballpark, I guess, but I haven't used it for like podcasts or anything like that before.
To your credit, I think you could tow a car with it.
There you go.
It's possible, yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Okay. Well, hey, we got you on the mic. Why don't you share what's going on new with you, man?
What's new with me? Well, my band is taking a 2-month break, and because of that, I started playing baritone guitar just in my basement.
Interesting.
You got
Kind of loving it.
You got 2 full-time bass players here, and a halfie.
Well, actually, I've always been very intrigued about getting a baritone guitar. So, Hank, is this something that you're just now picking up, or have you tooled with it in the past?
No, I've had a couple of baritones before, and I'm also a real big fan of like the bass 6. So it's like kind of like a baritone, just 1 octave lower than a 6-string, which are super fun. But, you know, I'd never had like the perfect moment to use those guitars, but I definitely like them. So like when I'm like playing, you know, just solo in the basement with the amp cranked up, baritone's pretty awesome. So, you know, kind of exploring new things there. It's fun.
Yeah, the bass
And
6.
oddly,
Bass 6, it's E, right? It's just...
Yeah, that's standard, yep.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And then my baritone that I have, it's tuned to A, which I always hate.
Ooh.
Like one of the reasons why I hate like baritone in a band situation is I'd never realized when I would bring it how everyone's like subconsciously looking at what you're doing. So it's like if I'm writing a song and I'm playing like, you know, E major, that's A major when I'm playing.
Right.
So when you see it out of the corner of your eye, like, oh, he's playing a G. I'm not playing a G, you know? And it's like,
Right.
it causes all this confusion because you kind of think we're all playing in the right notes, and it's not. So when I used to bring a baritone to like another band I was in, I would always turn my back to everybody so they couldn't see like what I was playing. Like,
What's he doing?
just find the note and then lock in, because I mean, I don't even know what note it is. I have to turn the tuner on and go, oh, that's a F sharp now or whatever, you know, but
Yeah. Well, tell us
it's
about your guitar, man. Like, give us all the aesthetic goodness and everything.
the baritone
Yeah.
that I'm playing, oddly enough, it's not a baritone. It's a 6-string that's been converted, so the intonation is whack, but I don't care. It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a Travis Bean. So it's a like a guitar from the 70s, aluminum neck.
Oh wow. Okay. Like a Kramer.
Kind of yeah. Actually, Kramer used to work for Travis Bean. Like that was a partner of Travis Bean, and when they split, he made Kramer, and Travis Bean was around before them.
Look at us
Much
learning
better.
all kinds of stuff. I like that. That's cool.
Travis Bean's like awesome guitar, and they went out of business in '79. But like a lot of like indie bands like Shellac or like the Jesus Lizard, like Chicago stuff would play like Travis Bean's and kind of got him back into notoriety in the '90s. But before that, like in the glory days of Travis Bean, it was Roger Fischer from Heart played one. Jerry Garcia from Grateful Dead played. Joe Perry, Aerosmith played one. Kiss.
Is it?
So
what body style is it?
It's kind of like it's a double cutaway, kind of like a Les Paul. I guess would be like a junior, double cutaway junior. So it's got 2 horns on it.
Yeah, or a melody
two humbuckers.
Maker.
Yeah, melody maker. That's what I was thinking. That's the shape. 2 humbuckers. 2 volume, 2 tone.
We got it on screen here. The Minister of Information is helping us out.
Yeah.
I took my Dramamine today, so we should be fine.
So the one I play now, that one's been modified. So like the bridge, like on the E and the A string, it's further back a little bit, but I can't get the neck length to be right. So when you go past the 12th fret, intonation is horrible. It's like you're off. But I mean, if you're playing anything like chords or anything, above the 12th, you're or below the 12th, you're fine. So
that's cool.
But
so is that
it just sounds awesome. That's right. I've had other baritones with 30-inch neck scale, like a true baritone the way it's supposed to be, and they just they sound too much like a bass to me, like just straight up bassy. Where this sounds like a really insanely aggressive, mean, heavy guitar.
Cool.
Like it has that aspect, and that's why I have to tune it to A. To B, it's just it's floppy, real floppy.
Yeah.
You said you got humbuckers in it. Are they Are they factory? Any kind of special brand or anything?
Yeah, those would have been factory humbuckers.
Nice.
They made their own. So yeah. And like normally, what I play like all day. That's why it's fun to play this. I mean, in my band that I'm in, I mean, all I play is Jazzmaster and Jaguars, single coils. So when we're taking this little break, it's like, I'll just find a completely different instrument. It's like night and day compared to what I sound like normally. So it's kind of fun. It's a fun break.
Cool, man. What does something like that go for?
Oh, Travis Bean, they're pretty expensive. Back when I bought mine, I mean, if they were like $1,000 on eBay, now, I mean, you're talking $4,000 or $5,000 probably.
Holy cow!
Holy moly!
Yeah.
So
I bought mine in like the late '90s.
Is the neck aluminum?
That's where I wanted to know.
Okay.
So is it a baritone guitar?
No, it's
a replacement.
If you're looking at a picture right now, they only made guitars, like regular 6-string guitars and basses. Mm-hmm. So they never made a baritone. I mean, I'm the one who bastardized mine to be a baritone.
Right.
But the thing about a Travis Bean is cool is the neck, all the way from, if you can see a picture of the...
We just saw
Travis,
it.
Yeah, so there's no neck joint.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So from bridge to nut is a continual piece of aluminum. So what that means is like, added sustain and, it's just, I mean, you can take the body off and still play it.
Yeah.
So
that's wild.
Yeah.
Well, the cutout in the headstock, when you said Travis Bean, I was like, what? But as soon as I saw that, I was like,
oh yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Now I've seen that on many. Yeah. That's cool, dude. Thanks for sharing. It's always good to learn about cool stuff. And
it's
stuff.
fun.
And stuff. I've been itching actually to take my Squier Telly and convert it into a baritone. I've floated that idea around a few times.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much. I mean, you just swap the neck out, I would imagine, for that.
Mm-hmm. I even read just getting just thicker strings would be at least a start. But yeah, I think a different neck might.
You'd get the scale. I mean, it'd be a more proper scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends if you want the scale or not. Like I said, like my scale is like standard guitar scale.
Yeah.
And that low E string or whatever, A string or whatever you want to call it, it's like a 84 on it. So I mean, it's fat.
It's beefy. Yeah.
And so it's like a D string on a bass. So I had to machine out or drill out the tuner to accept it, and then I had the
He
bridge.
needs some serious tools for it. Dude.
Yeah. Well, no, that was just a hand drill to do the tuner.
Well, you're
That
strong.
Or you're weak, Jay. I don't
that's
know.
probably the case.
Cool.
I had an idea to do something like that, except way dumber, like what you get, guitar conversions.
On point.
I had thank you very much. I had that 67 EBO, that bass I was talking about last time that was spray painted, and it was in such bad shape, really, that I thought, I wonder if I could just drill 2 holes between the machine heads up on top and make this into a guitar, this EBO pickup.
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm like, what would that sound like? And I was like, it would probably sound pretty bad.
That's the one that only has the single mud bucker, right?
Yeah,
Like just a single pickup in the middle.
Like you can't even distinguish any tone from it at all, really.
Yeah.
It was just like, But I thought, well, maybe that would be
desirable.
Yeah. And I was like, man, maybe that's a really dumb idea. We'll see. But I never got off my butt to do it.
Yeah.
And then it got stolen, so whatever.
Well, hey, why don't you continue with that and tell us what's up with your music?
So what did I do? What's new with me? I played a gig.
Big party.
Yeah. Big J out there slapping the bass.
Yeah, so a guy who a really awesome drummer, this guy named Jared Karen, had turned 40. And I played in a couple of groups with him over the years. And for his 40th birthday, his wife kind of threw this party for him, and then he decided to invite everyone who was ever in any band that he ever played with to come play a show. So there were 6 bands on this bill. And we did, I played in 2 of the bands, and he went chronologically, sort of. So I was in the first 2 groups he was ever in, so we kind of had, led off the night. And we played 4 songs each, and it was super fun, except that some of the songs were 15 years old, and some of the other songs were like 10 years old. And so I had to do a lot of catching up,
Wow.
But it was fun, and drink some beers, and like throw down some crazy, hardcore songs in one group, and kind of hardcore nerdcore. All the songs were about computers, but they were like super heavy.
I like it.
And then the other group was this kind of like, horn section laden, like trying to be like Frank Zappa and doing a really bad job of it. But it was fun.
Did you sing on both of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so bummed I missed that. I really wanted to see you play.
Yeah, so
Did you wear your Ted blazer?
Wow.
Yeah, that's a throwback, but he's got this really sweet Ricardo Montalban blazer that he puts on occasionally.
It's a summer blazer. It sounds like I'm trying to like justify it. What, guys? No, it's summer. No, I wore the Guitar Knobs shirt, dude.
Awesome.
What do you think I'd wear?
It was an honest question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to pause real quick right after that, and let's save, just to make sure.
I did.
Okay,
it's saved.
You're,
We're good.
okay, awesome. Just checking.
Yeah.
Just making sure. I just had a little rumbly in my tumbly about like, hey, man, you better go save that right now. Okay.
Hey, Todd.
Yes?
What's going on, buddy?
Well, let me tell you what's going on. I finally, so I got...
Wait a minute, Jay, are you done with your little...
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done.
Wait, let me pontificate a little. No, I'm done.
Okay, so 2 things. I picked up my amp from Dave Harris.
Oh, yeah.
So I got the TAF 14R, the Tube Amp Factory, 14 watt with reverb, and I'm super duper excited to hear it, which means I haven't yet because I don't have a cabinet for it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to be doing some special things with it before I even really get to play it out or anything.
Wait a minute. Cabinet.
Yes.
Is this an upcoming project that you and
this is what me and Jeff are going to work on.
Fischer guy?
Maybe.
Who wants to borrow my biscuit joiner?
Yeah.
If we had a biscuit joiner, we would do this project.
If only. Yeah. So, I bought
just
the head.
Just be nice to me. Don't make fun of me this show, and I might actually loan it to you guys.
It's not really worth it.
Just have Jeff,
I got
Jeff
glue
make
and
it
a
for you.
staple gun, dude. I'm not going to give up my opportunity
To harass me.
Yeah. So, anyways, I got the amp. I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to hear it. Like I said, and I will keep everybody informed of what's going on with that. There's some cosmetic things that I've changed, just even as a bit of a custom build. So it isn't like exactly the ones on the site, and we'll probably customize it a little bit more. And if you want to know what the heck a Tube Amp Factory amp is, go back and check our episodes from Dave Harris.
Way back when.
Amp Builder. They're really good, and I guarantee you will learn something. And then the second part was
He looks like a crazy wizard.
he is a crazy wizard.
That's
He's
cool.
been crazy wizarding since like 1957. So
I wish I had
he
that
knows what
skill.
he's doing. The other thing that I got a sweet music poster. We're going to be. I know that sounds silly,
Yeah.
but it's really fantastic. It's laminated and you can dry erase on it, and it's got like every printed tool you can think of to practice and to learn guitar. And
Sounds like you're overselling it.
I'm not. I promise.
It's
It's big. It's like 4 feet wide and 3 feet high, soft as a downy chick. It's John Denver. Just threw some John Denver in
Is that a toilet paper commercial or something?
No. Yeah, but it hangs on the wall. It's got all the scales, all the chords, everything. Everything. I'm excited about it. But we are going to bring that up for another episode where we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that.
It's
About
laminated.
theory, music theory. Can we have a whole episode on music theory?
Boy.
Hank, would you listen to that?
Probably not.
Yeah. So anyhow, so I got that, and that's cool. And right away, I was like, all right, I'm going to put this to use. And I went to a site that I'm growing very fond of called musiciswin.com. That is www.musiciswin.com. And he's a guy. He's a I think he's a Berkeley or Harvard graduate. He's smart.
Graduated.
Yeah, he graduated the schools with a lot of music knowledge, and he's putting it to good use. He's got a unique way of teaching, and I always like to explore how people are teaching things. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm a hack. I've been hacking my way through guitar for a very long time, but I've got an awful lot to learn, and I hope to continue to do so. And I think this is going to help me out, because right away I was like, oh, I can mark that, and I went over to the poster and I marked it all down and everything. It's cool.
Yeah. You could use it as a placemat.
Or that.
For a giant, the thing's
Or
huge, man.
Could you sled ride on it? It's for it.
You could.
It's a slip and slide.
You actually could do that. You could slip and slide on it.
Pointing at Jay.
Pointing at Jay.
Pointing at Jay.
Yes.
Okay, that's enough of that shenanigans.
Yeah, we're being rude to our guest.
Well, I hope not. Hank? Are we being rude?
Lie.
No.
Okay, good.
No, I was thinking about what you just said, though, about learning guitar and continue learning. I remember a couple years ago, there was a point where I was just kind of just in a rut, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I actually went to a local guitar store and said, okay, I want to do lessons. And the guy's like, really? I mean, it's like, like an old dude. I'm in bands. It's like, what can you teach me? You know what I mean? Like, can you teach this old person something kind of thing? You know what I mean?
No, that's the same experience I had too.
Yeah.
Keep going.
It was
I wanna hear where this
amazing.
goes.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. I mean, we started going into theory, even though I just said I wouldn't tune to a show that was about theory, but we dipped into theory, and it was just awesome to just kind of force my hands to do things that I'm not used to doing, that I don't do every single day. And, to do scales I wasn't used to. Like, I will never play this scale, like thinking about it. But now when I'm starting to play, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's that little thing I learned in guitar lessons a couple of years ago. So, I mean, it's cool to, still kind of keep searching, for some kind of knowledge a little bit, But, yeah, that got me out of my rut. It was pretty awesome.
That's great.
Awesome. Just for reference, the place I I got it at. It's called bestmusicposters.com. And here's the thing. I talked with the guy, and he's like, don't tell everybody because I'm stocking up. I'm trying to make stock. So sorry.
You blew it, dude. You had one job.
I mean, yeah, sorry, you might sell a bunch of posters. But it's go check that out, bestmusicposters.com.
You're giving ourselves way too much credit.
Well, really on Hank's behalf. I mean, we're going to ride the crap out of his coattails.
That's right.
Hank's going to buy one.
Anyhow, he might. Seriously, go, if you check it out, I bet he might. Let us know if you do. Let us know.
I'm going to go sled riding. I'm going to get one for this winter.
Okay, so we have Hank Donovan on here for a reason. He is the owner proprietor, et cetera, of Rattlesnake Cables, and just a brief setup. I like a lot of our guests that we do. Like I found him via Instagram, which in the guitar world now is like I find probably 90% of the things that I'm interested in on Instagram.
You said that before.
I have. I'll say it again. I find 90% of the things.
Say it one more time.
Shut it.
Was it 90%?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not going to say it though. So, I was like, whoa, this is kind of cool. Like right away, the aesthetic of the cable, I was like, that is different. What is going on with this? I'm intrigued. And then, I think much like the way that I encountered Scott from Stringjoy, Hank is doing a really good job in the social atmosphere about saying rattlesnake sighting, and he takes that's always that, like pretty much, right? That's the head of almost every one of your posts. Yeah. So it's when we just did our gig, I think I mentioned this to you in the emails, is like I was eager to set it up, and I was trying to get a picture of it, but everybody's like, just get it set up. Everybody get this stuff. So I was like, but I want to take a picture of my cable, man. And that didn't.
The sound guy says we go on now.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was really intrigued, and I wanted to find out what this thing was really like. So I bought one, and I got it in the mail, and I was really impressed. I mentioned that in like 2 or 3 the other previous podcasts, and plugged it in, gigged with it. It's awesome, and you are with us now as a result of that. So why don't you tell us a little bit? Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for making an awesome product and allowing us to chat with you. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are, why you're doing this, and why we should give a crap about these cables.
Well, I guess I started Rattlesnake about 4 years ago, but about 5 years ago was when I was first experimenting with cables. But before that, I've always been kind of a pedal nerd junkie and was really kind of interested in building pedals for myself and repairing and potentially selling pedals, but I mean, there's a million pedals out there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have an electrical engineering background to really think of how I could create something new. And I just didn't want to be another clone, tube screamer kind of situation. So I started dabbling with cables because I had a cable that I had for a long time and it was starting to die out on me, and I thought, well, this would be a good time to start doing something on my own. So I started researching different material and got kind of obsessed with it, got really into it, and came up with some prototypes, and I was kind of excited about that. And I remember I went to a band practice. It was kind of a tribute band at the time, so it wasn't like a permanent band. So there were these band members, as soon as I brought in the cable, they were like, hey, what's that? And I was like, oh, I just built this thing for myself, and this is the final one. This is the one I'm like really stoked on. And immediately there was like 2 of them that wanted a cable. I was like, oh yeah, I'll totally make you a cable. And suddenly it was like I was getting phone calls and emails from friends across town, like, hey, I saw so-and-so's cable, I want one too. And it was like, that's when the light bulb really kind of like turned on above the head. Like, wow, if there are people like coming after me for this might be something that I could sell. So we, started forming the business and kind of like getting, the logo and the look and getting all those pieces kind of put together. And I was really worried that, okay, once Missoula is saturated, which, it's not that big of a town, I was like, are we going to be like, have any sales? And, the first couple of years, it was slow, and I was just trying to get, I was giving cables away and trying to make as many connections as I could and talking to people and just trying to, just kind of grind my way through it and say, okay, if I just, if I do better next month, that's a positive. I'll just focus on doing better than last month. And every year since, 4 years ago is when the business actually started, officially Rattlesnake became an entity or whatever. Every year it's been better and better and better and better. Still got a long ways to go, but, I'm just trying to focus in on quality. Customer service is a big thing. Buyer experience is a big thing. Where it's just, cables are kind of boring. They're not really fun. So it's like at the same time, when I put this product together and interact with musicians, I try to make it like this good buyer experience. So by the time they get the cable, they're stoked, and it was like a cool experience.
It works.
95% of our builds are custom builds. We do some dealer stuff, but 95% is me talking to somebody. And, and I'm also a web developer by trade. And there'll be people like, how come you didn't build like a shopping cart, e-commerce, cable builder, wizard thing, And it's like, I purposely did not want to do that.
Because it takes a human out of it, right?
Yes. I didn't want like someone just plugging in stuff and I just get an order and I put it in the mail. Because there's a lot of times I get a lot of emails where people be like, hey, I don't know what color to pick. Here's a picture of my Strat. What do you think would be a good color? And it's like, then we'll go back and forth and stuff. Well, the dirty tweed looks pretty good on that. It's like, what does your amp color look like? And it's like, we'll go back and forth, and it's like, they're stoked that I'm actually spending, time out of my day to figure it out. I had another guy had a telly with an electro socket input. And depending on those electro sockets, like what kind you get, how deep the plug is, a right angle plug may or may not fit in there.
Right. And
he's just like, well, can you help me out with that? And I was like, I took the digital calipers out, I took a picture of it, and he measured it, and he was like, yeah, it seems really close. I go, I'll tell you what, I'll just mail you a plug right now, and then you plug it in. And if it fits, mail it back, and we'll go build the cable. And he was totally stoked on that. Like, a cable builder wizard thing on the website doesn't do that.
Right.
So, and that's the thing where it's like that buyer experience where it's like, is really important to me, because when I talk to like pedal builders or something, I get really excited when I talk to like, someone who works there that's, part of the, the organization, and they're actually taking the time asking me questions about what kind of music I'm playing and, how is this pedal applied or whatever, Yeah.
I have to say that you were pretty responsive on your website today. I was just like looking around, and I'd been on one page for a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden, even though this is still human, I'm not trying to get off of the human aspect, but you came up, and it was you chatting with me, and I'm like, wow, I wasn't expecting that, because I knew you have a small operation, but you came on onto the website and spoke to me. It was cool, and
which might have been weird because he was actually stalking you. So.
Yeah, basically it was. It was like, I got to hurry up and figure out what we're talking about. No, I'm just kidding. I've been looking at it.
I think you bring up an excellent point, and honestly, that's one of the things that we try to focus on when we are reaching out to people, is that there are few things in the world anymore that are bespoke and or at least crafted, and you're providing both of those in one fell swoop. And I totally understand this guy's electrosocket predicament. I had that on a previous Telecaster, and I bought a Monster, and I had to actually carve down all the plastic so that it would fit.
Yeah.
on a like a $45 cable. I said, that's a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, that happens in those electro sockets too. It's like one guy, because that's what they'll say is, I have an electro socket. That doesn't mean anything to me, because it fits on this guy doesn't mean it's going to fit on yours. Yeah. Because the depth of the plug could be different, or the jack.
Yeah.
And, and there's different kinds of electro sockets. So yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, I had the cup one that was just it was deep in there. So I can understand that
Yeah.
guys, dang, I can't find
It was actually a
right-
trumpet mouthpiece, which is the strangest thing.
It worked. Cool, man. That's it's good to hear your backstory. And obviously things are going well, right?
Yeah. I mean, everything's definitely moving forward, and sales are up over last year, and so it's all good.
Are you working on any kind of new developments or anything, or are you just staying strong with your current?
Well, it's like all of our cable we have manufactured here in the U.S. That was like kind of a big thing for me. So it's like
Awesome.
That costs a good chunk of money.
We all smiled real big right here.
Yeah. So it's like when I do development on new cable, because people will be like, "Hey, do you have mic cables or do you have TRS cable?" It's on my list. It's once I get the budget for it, we're going to go for it. But one of the bigger things we went just a few months ago is our flex patch, which is a thinner diameter cable than our instrument cable, and that's kind of so we got a bunch of that. So we're doing that for flex patch cables, and our Pro still uses instrument cable, but we're already starting to figure out the design for the TRS and mic cables coming up next, but probably be next year.
Cool.
Right now, I'm just really focusing on instrument cables. We do a buffer too. That's kind of scratching my building a pedal itch.
Yeah.
So the buffers are something that are kind of fun to sell and make and do all that.
You hit the nail on the head with getting the logo on there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
It look good on a board. So hey, we got some questions for you.
Yeah.
And since you're the resident expert at the moment on cable stuff, cables are a bit of a black magic, I think. Most people either get extremely extremely knowledgeable about them and get into the minutia and will claim all the scientifics about it, and other people are like, I don't know, man, I can't wrap my head around that. I just need something to make it go. But if you are participating in any type of guitar world social atmosphere out there, then you are running into the argument of like, use a better cable, and here's why. But the why part is always a bit stymied.
It's fuzzy.
Yeah. It's a black magic. So we got a couple questions for you. We're going to throw them your way, and
Cool.
If you fail the questioning, you surely won't, I promise. So can you just really briefly start off? I think one of the most common words associated with cables is capacitance. Could you just kind of hit on what that is, what it does, and why we should give a crap?
Yeah. So basically, when you have a long run of copper, you're sending a little tiny current of electricity down that, which has your signal in that current. What happens is when you have a long run of copper, and depending on the dielectrics of the cable, like kind of like the distance between the shielding and the center conductor, what happens is you'll start losing some of the frequencies to ground. So that's basically rolling your tone knob on your guitar, because that's what you're doing when you're running it to a capacitor when you roll your tone. So that peels off your high end. So in essence, your long cable becomes a capacitor in a sense. So you might have a lot of high end when it starts, and by the time it gets to the low end, it's or the other end, it's missing the high end. Now, when you couple that with true bypass pedals, so you have your pedal board with true bypass, and you got 20-foot cable from like a guitar to a board, and a 20-foot cable from board to amp. You got 40 feet of cable, and by the time it gets to the amp, that's when you start losing that high end. So there's a couple of things that you can do to preserve that. One is use low capacitance cable, and that's what we have. So based on the design of the cable, it's set up to give you less capacitance throughout the run. You still have it, and that's one of those kind of like smoke and mirrors things too, I always hate, like, no matter what, if I cut you a 200-foot cable of our cable, it's going to sound dark in the end. Even though someone's, hey, I thought it was low capacitance. It's like, well, it's 200 feet. You know what I mean? So the trick is...
Doesn't it also matter if it's like if you are running a board, if it's before the board or after the board?
Oh, you're talking about a buffer?
Yeah, well, just
What?
the length. Like, so you were talking about the where it starts to tail off. The signal will start to tail off a little bit.
Well, I would say, I mean, unless you have a buffer on the board, I don't think that would matter.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you have a buffer on the board, then yeah, it would be the length post board that you'd be worried about. So if you had 100 feet post board, even if you had a buffer on there, it'd be a problem. But let's say like you had total, like you just had a true bypass switch and two 20-foot cables, or a 30-foot and a 20-foot. I mean, whatever, you're still going to be losing high end. It doesn't matter that you had 30-foot in the front and 20-foot after the switch.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think some of that stuff, some people might not realize that they actually have a buffer on their board. And they sit there and say, well, it only sounds bad before the board, not after the board. Like, you know, Boss pedals have buffers in them.
Right.
MXR pedals have buffers in them. You know, Tube Screamer, Crybabies, they all have buffers. Some horrible, some okay, but they have buffers. And basically what that does is make a copy of your signal, raises the impedance, and then you kind of get that signal back. That's why a buffer is good to have. So to really, it's about just getting the best signal all the time. That's what I'm always kind of like thinking about. Like if I can keep my capacitance low and get a nice high signal to the board, have a buffer there, have a nice good signal going to the amp, then I should be all good. Now, there's other people that don't like low capacitance sound. They like a darker tone. So that's when some guys will sit there and get a coily cable. This coily cable stretches out to 35 feet or whatever. Joe Perry is one that runs like 50-foot cables because he doesn't like to have that super low capacitance high end.
Interesting.
So, I mean, there's people that, you know, don't like that. So it doesn't mean it's better, you know?
Yeah.
So it depends on what you want.
Interesting.
So you have to make a dark cable then, a light and a dark.
Yeah, there's a Neutrik plug that I think it's called the Timber plug, and it literally, I think it must have a capacitor in it. You can click it, like dial it, and then it adds darkness to it.
Oh yeah.
Like it muddies it up.
Cool.
Wow.
So,
That's gadgety.
gadgety, yeah.
Well, I had a question because I was checking out your site and you know, as we were talking about capacitors, there was a sentence that at first threw me. I was like, the cable itself becomes a capacitor, and to address this, we have oxygen-free bare copper, low capacitance cable. You know, and I wanted to know, what is oxygen-free bare copper?
So that's if I remember right, I'm not 100% sure about the exact how it's produced. It should be smelted in a certain way that they eliminate the oxygen molecules out of it. Now, that's one of those things where like almost all like boutique cable builders will use oxygen-free bare copper. It gives you a higher conductivity for it. It's just the best, basically, audio copper that you can.
So it's like pure. It's more pure or something.
Yes.
And when you're saying bare copper, is that as opposed to, I think, tinned copper? Is that?
Well, no, that's just the way it's termed.
Okay.
I mean, when you purchase cable from a manufacturer, you're always adding, you know, bare copper. You know, it might be right. They might be tinned, might not be referred to as bare copper.
Okay.
But normally it's bare copper or oxygen-free bare copper.
Like,
I see.
But I'm not sure why it's got to be bare copper.
as opposed to moose copper.
Oh,
Man, I had to go there.
how long have you been sitting on that? That is terrible. Go brush your teeth.
I don't get it.
Jeez.
Oh man.
No, but nice points for that. That was good. Come on. Okay, so here's another one I got for you. One of the things that I was struck by when I got the cable was like, whoa, these connectors are mega substantial. And they just felt, I was like, what kind of connectors have I been using like my entire career? Because like this is legit. I noticed so the one that I got a Sage rattlesnake head, or a Sage snake head with gold connectors, and I wanted to know if you could kind of touch on the difference between the copper connectors and the nickel.
Okay, yeah. See, this is one of these things too that where it depends on who you're talking to. So, like, one guy will sit there and say, "I will never buy anything unless it's gold plugs." Like, I could hear the difference a mile away. Blah blah blah. Right? You'll see that all the time. And then you'll talk to another person, and they're like, "Well, that gold plug is connecting to a nickel jack, so it doesn't even matter." You know what I mean? And so it's like. It's when people ask me that, because they'll ask me, they cost more, the gold, and they'll ask me like, well, should I get the gold upgrade? And I'll be like, I don't want to sit there and say, well, hell yeah. It's like, you should, but really it all depends on, to me, aesthetically, does it look good? Do you prefer the gold over the nickel? Because that's something. Recently I used to be all nickel all the time. But the last 2 cables I built for myself that I've been sitting on for about 2 years now, I made it with gold plugs. And I don't know why I really did it. I just thought I'd try it. And there's a little psychological thing like, I think they sound better. I think, like maybe just a little bit more high end, but I couldn't tell. But really, to me, if you really want gold versus the nickel, I think where it really comes in, depending on your region, is the gold are more anti-corrosion resistant, so you won't get any smudge on them and stuff. If you're in a dry climate, it doesn't matter. So some people get really worked up about it, and some people don't care. And it's just what you just said. I personally, I got the gold. I think they look cool. I like the black shell on them. I like the gold, and I have mine with Sage also, and I just thought it looked good. So I'm not going to give you like, here's the definitive reason why gold is better than nickel in the plug world. Because it's true, the gold contact is a better conductive contact, but it's touching a nickel jack.
Right.
Your wire's not gold, your jack's not gold, your pots aren't gold. It's like all the way, if it was all gold all the way, I could see it. Yeah. But if the gold was like this superior conductive unit, you're still cursed by the lowest common denominator and say, okay, well, if you have this horrible nickel conductor, then that just discounted your gold conductivity property in your chain, right? Yeah. It's as good as your nickel connection.
So when's the silver one coming out? The silver connector.
The silver connector?
Yeah, you got to have a silver one.
Jeff is
silver
a very dry individual.
Is the best.
I can't tell because I know Jeff, Hank, and I can't tell if he's trying to be silly or not.
I'm just saying that because silver is like the other audio metal. Silver is better than gold. So
you'll see like
everyone throws out.
You'll see the silver plated copper. That's the same thing where I would say depending on the conductivity of the metal in a cable, that would be different than say in the plug. Because if it's, like the silver plated core of like a guitar cable inside the cable, that's going to help that signal go through the cable. Right. Yep. So, that's a benefit, but when it terminates on the plug, I don't know if that's going to be,
we're talking about like minuscule differences. That now you can also make the argument like, well, all the minuscule differences might add up.
Absolutely,
but if you're a total purist, you can get lost in that for sure.
It's how you feel about it. If you feel like the gold is giving you a better tone, then go with the gold. I'm not going to argue with you.
I sound like a better guitar player because of it. I'm pretty sure.
Wait till you get the silver one.
Yeah. So you mentioned on the site that you're using Nutric Connect. Is that how you say it?
That's the way I really want to say it, but I think the proper pronunciation is Neutric.
Neutric. I was watching a very, very good video from Just Nick. And interestingly enough, I saw that before I saw it on your site. He's mentioning that they came with amphenol connectors. So is there a difference between the two, or can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, amphenol, that was the original plugs that I went with, and I do like those, or I did. I mean, I still do. The problem was it was the sourcing. The sourcing of the plugs was a real pain. So, when I would start running out or getting low, I would contact, my suppliers and like, oh yeah, we're out until whatever.
Yeah.
And that was starting to be a problem. And then at the same time, I was getting lots of requests for Neutrik plugs. So there were a bunch of people, that would want Neutrik. So I was carrying both, but with the majority of amphenol. Like they would come stock with amphenol, but you could request Neutrik. And then there was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. There was a point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to just go with Neutrik and move away from amphenol. And I've never had anybody like, hey, I want those amphenols again. It's like no one, but I've had plenty of people request Neutrik. So, I went that way.
Well,
it's kind of
it was more of a sourcing issue.
Right. In the industry, Neutrik is more of probably a better known brand, potentially.
It is, yeah.
So that like all connectors, like in the recording world and audio world, Neutrik.
Yes. Jeff is heavily into pro audio.
No.
Yeah.
Nice.
No.
Yeah, you are.
Audio.
Just
file.
audio, yeah.
All right, audio file.
Yeah.
So high maintenance. So the other question, we had a couple more for you still. Can you explain shielding and its purpose?
Yeah, so shielding, like our shielding, we use a braided shield, and that covers 95% of the cable. So there's like a coverage of it. Now, the idea of the shielding is what's protecting that center conductor in the middle. So when you dissect a cable, you have the rubber PVC outside, then you have the copper shielding that's braided throughout the whole thing like a big tube. And then you have like a foam core, and then inside of that you have a center conductor, and that's where your signal goes down. That shielding either comes braided or what do you call that? Like a spiral shield, or it's like a paper shield, like a tinfoil shield. And what it's for is to protect outside frequencies from going into the cable and then hitting your center conductor.
Oh, so, kind of like Better Call Saul's dad or brother, where he's got to wear the tinfoil all over him so he doesn't get electrocuted.
No radio interference. That's true.
Yeah.
Space blanket.
So,
I do that at home.
So the shielding is basically, that's what goes to the ground. And that is part of your capacitance question. That's a player in the whole capacitance thing. But with the spiral shield, what happens is when you're stepping on your cable and then moving it all around over years, the spiral will tend to separate because it's literally it's wrapped around in a spiral around the whole thing. Not real tight. It's kind of like at a 45-degree angle, maybe less than that, all the way around. Oh, wow. And what happens is you start having gaps inside of your shield, and that's when you start having that noisy cable when you're moving the cable.
Lots of head nods over here.
Yeah, because that's what's happening is that shield is like literally opening up, and you're actually physically moving that center conductor as you're moving that cable around.
Wild.
So that's why I like braided. Braided is a lot stronger, so you can't have that kind of like opening up kind of thing. And it keeps that circle protected, so it keeps a quiet cable. So that was the whole reason why I wanted to do that, is quiet.
Nice.
I mean, it's like I said, I played Jazz Masters, so Jaguars, so single coils.
Yeah.
And, that's just like that's just like a noise machine depending on what venue you're in.
Yep.
And before, I was like, what's causing it? Like my pedal, like the cables, just all these factors, and I used to just lose my mind. And I was trying to like eliminate possibilities. So it's like, now, okay, the cable is like dead quiet. Like, I know that's not a problem. And then you can start figuring out, oh, it's this neon beer sign that's behind me.
Right. It's still totally waterproof though, right? Even though it's fabric. Is there rubber? I don't.
You mean his cable?
Yeah. Inside of the fabric, or
I played it at a pool party. It was fine.
Okay, cool. Just like, I mean,
I would assume.
It showed some skiers behind your boat. With it.
Yeah, there you probably could do that.
Like a standard rubber sheath. When you spill like beer all over it, like I do every single. He said. No, so are these the same? Is it's not? Is it fabric around another piece of rubber, or is it just fabric?
Are you talking about the color? That part?
Yeah, the outer. Yeah, the outer.
Yeah, that's like a poly weave. That's totally waterproof. I mean, it's
just checking.
It's not like a cotton or anything like that. Yeah, it's totally beer proof.
Yes,
proof.
that's probably the most identifiable thing about your cables.
Yeah, it's like when you called me over and said, "Hey, my cable came in," and I came over to your desk and we were kind of nerding out over it, and that's like the
You're rubbing the cable.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the first thing that you visually notice outside of the cool package, if you will, that it comes in. Is that sort of sheathing?
Well, yeah, you get it, and you're like, "What the crap? This is indestructible. It's got to be indestructible,
right?
It's probably bulletproof.
Bulletproof.
Is it
right?
Kevlar?
It's bulletproof.
It's not Kevlar.
Okay. What is it? Can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, I would be willing to guess that was probably the most significant choice that you made, outside of making sure that it was, the highest quality actual conductor.
Well,
right?
I mean, that's what I wanted, was that the weave on the outside is just another layer of protection. So another killer of cables really is the binding, the pinch. So it's like if you put one foot on a cable, stood on it, and then the other foot you put on the same cable, and then slid your foot.
Yeah. And
one part would turn and the other part wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you keep doing that, that's what's going to start tearing your shield inside. So it's like, this will help prevent that. Like, it's like all the things where like you're dragging it through the stage and it gets hung up on like a guitar stand or something like that. It's like, I want that to be like the catch instead of like the cable causing a problem, like getting bound. So I was just really any ways that I could get it to be, like preserve that inside connector.
Right. So that if you're in like a wristband and flat brim skate band, and all you're doing is pogoing on the stage, you're not going to screw your cables up.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. They'll get some battle scars. I've seen some people, like, I'll go to a show and I'll look at the cable and, it's just like, it's been like played hard. There's a little dirt on there and you'd be like, wow, this thing's been, but like 5 years old, and the guy's like, it's like, yeah, I played, 200 gigs this year. And you're just like, wow, it's like,
that's
crazy.
Cool.
That, you know what I mean? But it's like, cable's still holding up, it's still doing its thing. But so I can't believe, anything on the ground is like, it's designed to get destroyed.
Right.
It's just, how many times you step on a cable, how many times, they just get abused. That's all they do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can't not step on them.
The small stages, you're literally standing on it the entire time, right?
I have to say, I was a little bit like, I was conscious of
like
it, because
walking
I was
on eggshells around it.
I don't want to like step all over it. But that actually brings up a good point. When I did have it, I probably only practiced with it once before I had my gig. I didn't have it long enough, and I plugged in and I ran it out on stage, and the excess tended to coil up like right away on me. Not like a coily, like a lava or something like that, but it found its way, and I was like, I wonder if this is called rattlesnake because it coils up. I honestly thought that, and I'm just
go with that. Man.
Joe
That's our new thing.
Here.
That's the new.
Well, let's test it with some focus groups.
Yeah.
Survey.
We'll do that.
Sorry,
we'll do.
I actually saw in part of some other cable manufacturer, they actually had like some type of rotational end built onto the cable, so it wouldn't actually twist, which I thought was interesting. But it sounds like super complex way to build a cable and keep a good connection.
Well, yeah.
But I thought it was interesting the fact that it could actually almost uncoil itself at that pinch point, which is interesting.
Well, it didn't prove to be troublesome when I was playing, but Hank, I did want to ask you if I think if you are reading any forums or you're watching anything about guitars or listening to things about guitars, that is one of the things that comes up. Like, hey, if you want to make sure you're not getting a lot of extra noise, don't pile your cables on top of each other. You obviously have an extremely well-built product that comes in a coil, and so I was wondering, is the intent for it to coil, or is that going to relax after a while, or what?
Basically, when the coil or when the cable is on the reel, like when we get reels of raw cable, right? It's going to retain that shape just by memory of being in a circle.
Okay.
For when it was built, when it's actually manufactured, before we even get to the plugs or anything like that. Over time, that'll loosen up. That'll release. Cool. And kind of be more flexible. The other thing too is, I don't know if you've ever heard of the roadie wrap over under. Have you heard of those things?
No, I haven't.
That's how you wind
the
cable.
That's one of those things maybe you should Google. It's a really awesome thing to know about, is how to wrap a cable.
Oh yeah.
And it's called the roadie wrap, or it's called the over under method. And it's basically when you wrap a cable like you typically would wrap it, you maintain that same coil shape, and it slowly starts to twist and maintain that twist and actually get worse and worse and worse.
Oh yeah.
Extension cords is a good example. Like when you do wrap around your elbow and you keep doing that over and over and over, and then it starts to get this weird twist in it.
Yeah.
See, we're all
man, you just gave us the magic thing here. I'm at a loss for words.
Thanks for giving us the magic thing.
Extension cord doesn't have the weaving and it doesn't have the shield, so it's going to be more open to that twist. Well, a guitar cable is still capable of that twist, and it doesn't want to do that. You shouldn't want to do that. So you do what you call roadie wrap, which is basically you flip the loops on top of each other. That's why it's over under. Like one hand it's under, next hand it's over, next hand it's under, and that's one of those cable wraps where you throw it and it just turns into a line instead of turning into 10 knots.
Yes.
That's the roadie wrap.
I'm excited about this. I'm going to roadie wrap all my cables.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
I was doing something where I had some twine and I was roadie wrapping it. It was bizarre. That's the way I know how to do it. I was like, it's twine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that'll help too, because what happens is each loop opposes each other, and while you're doing that, that's stretching it out. As far as the noise and stuff, I'm not a real super hard believer in that. I don't know if someone's gonna totally yell at me for that, but it's just I've recorded plenty and played plenty of shows where I've had cables just massively on top of each other.
We're doing it now.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, if you had bad shielding, I could see it, because when you wrap it, you're making an inductor out of it. But I mean, if the shielding's good, it should be good. Yeah. But I mean, when I set up for a show, just out of habit, I always flip my line so it's straight, and then plug it in, and then so I get all the wraps out of it, and then I'll plug it in straight. So then it's my board to my amp, it's straight. And I throw the excess behind my amp, and then I unwind my guitar cable. Same kind of thing. I mean, they'll still want to wrap up a little bit, but it's it also depends too. If you're the guy, I'll see some people they'll play the cable, and they're they move a lot.
Yeah.
They move a lot. But I also think it's funny because they always move clockwise or counterclockwise. They stick with one circle movement. They're always going to the right, always going to the right. And you're well, no wonder your cord's wrapped around your foot now. It's
right.
you went around to the right 8 times in a row right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, unless you get the connector that you're talking about that unwinds. But that's another point of failure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that point where the actual the connector connects to the cable, because that always seems to be the weakest link. And after long time, that starts to weaken.
Yeah.
Do you do anything special in that area?
Well, Neutrik and Amphenol, both of those companies, they actually have really good cable clamp designs. So, like when you think of like a bad cable, when I think of a bad cable, like years ago, it's like that Switchcraft kind of straight connector with the barrel on it.
Yep.
That's like the classic, like that thing's always broken. You unscrew it, you solder it back up, because there's really what's holding the cable together is basically your solder, or just frayed pieces of cabling, that kind of stuff. Both the Neutrik and the Amphenol, they have these cable clamps that when you pull on the PVC, it bites into the PVC and resists against the housing of the plug. So you probably could pull a car with it, like what we were talking about earlier. Because as you're pulling on it, it's biting on the cable, but it's not stressing out your solder connection. It's doing it before it. So, there's going to be a point where...
More magic.
Yeah. Both those companies do a great job of that. And so, we do a real good job soldering, getting that on there, and making sure that stuff's locked in. Because, me as a musician, that's like, I would have anxiety, literally. I would go to, like every band in this town that I live in basically plays a Rattlesnake. So there'd be points where I'd go to shows and I'd be like, oh my God, I'd start stressing out. Like, what happens if the guitar cable fails while I'm here?
I don't want to know
watching.
About this.
It's like I'm just going to wait in the car until it's time for me to I would be literally stressed out about it. But I think that's really important for me and for you as a musician, that I care and worry about that failing, because I know what it's like when your crap doesn't work on stage and everyone's just looking at you while you're trying to figure it out.
The worst.
I've been there.
Or if you're me, if you're just crap on stage, no cable can help you. No, I'm not.
Well, I kind of have a confession to make that I'm kind of one of the... So these other guys, they take care of their stuff, right?
No.
Okay,
no,
so
you clearly missed our first couple of episodes where we're railing on Aaron. You were here.
Okay, so then you're like me, but like I can't keep a pair of sunglasses or a pen, or like I lose things.
But that's what happens
constantly.
if you buy cheap stuff.
Well, that's what I mean. I kind of have this. I kind of came to this quantity. I'd buy the live wires, or I'd have a bunch of these crappy ones, and then kind of go through the $14 cables. This thing is so beautiful looking. I'm like, I'd be almost afraid. Like I have to come up. Like I'm afraid I'm going to lose this thing. Mm-hmm. The good news is, because I have the same number of cables I always have, but I don't know where they came from. Like these are not the cables that I bought. Whose cable is this? I don't know. I still have
That's why you put the
I have
checkers.
6 of them.
That's why
but
you put the
I still have
identifier
6,
on it,
but,
man.
I have one that it's like a hot. You can like unplug it, and just hot, right? It has this little moving jack thing. I'm like, I don't know where this came from. I never bought this. This is really so good looking. You would actually be able to see this.
Especially if you got like a red one.
Amidst all the other cables. And so I'm like going to have to like get myself like,
a wallet
me,
chain.
the cable loser guy, the lose everything guy, maybe the thing is you pay a little more, it makes you take care of it.
Hey, that just gave me a good idea. If you ever get some orange shielding or outer case, what do you call that? The outer case, the outer wrap.
Weaving.
Just the weaving.
Yeah, orange weaving. We can do some sort of a Guitar Knobs Rattlesnake giveaway or something like that.
Oh yeah,
that'd be sweet.
Cool.
Last thing I want to mention about these, which was arguably one of the decisive factors for me getting this, is that the snake head option on this cable. So smart. Being able to, I am one of those people that threads the cable up and over the strap and then tags in, and man, that is money. Just where'd you come up with that?
Well, there's a really good friend, a guitar player and he had one of my cables, and he was just talking about, I was like, man, I wish there was a way, because he's had other cables that have that weaving as well. And he's got this real nice, AAA quilted top Les Paul custom. It's like an amazing guitar. Plays it all the time. He's total awesome dude. And he's like, I have your cable. I have this other company's cable, and we both have this weaving on it. He goes, you see, look at my finish back there by the strap, and it's you can see it's pretty worn, because that weaving was actually causing a little bit of abrasion on it, because it was pinched tight against the strap, and he moves around a lot, and he plays all the time. So it's like I was saying, and then he had this idea. It's like, oh, I wish there's a way you could just not go all the way to the top, and we started working on the prototype, and I was like, okay, let's try this. And he was the very first one to have a snake head. And he's like, yeah, that's all I want is just raw rubber touching my guitar. That's all I want, And so we offer that. And it's funny because, there's some people that get it immediately, and then other people, they have no idea why that's there.
Yeah.
And so I have to spend a little bit of time explaining, again, which is nice when I'm talking to them over email or through that chat on the website, because they'll ask me I don't understand what is the snake head, and a lot of people think it's actually I'm adding something to it. They think, oh, you're adding that coating on the snake head. I'm like, no, I'm actually taking it off. They think it's another thing of black on top of it.
Oh,
and
but it's not, because it provides the flexibility, which is crucial to that. That's cool, man. Well, Hank, you we've been gushing about your product. It's fantastic. These Rattlesnake cables are awesome, and I am thrilled with mine. And I hope anybody's listening will at least go to rattlesnakecables.com and check it out, and check out the Instagram, and submit yours if you have it, for sure.
Awesome.
We are going to move into our top 4. Which is really a top 5, but that's okay, because it's top 4, and that's funny that way, right? Top 4 this week is, what effect can't you live without? Now that can be a pedal, that can be a rack mount, that could be something that's just native on your amp. But what is the one thing that you must have no matter what? And question goes to Jeff.
Overdrive.
Ooh.
Of some kind. So that can be, pedal overdrive of the amp, VST for a recording, suite, whatever. You gotta have overdrive. Without it, guitar's no fun.
Interesting.
I have fun.
I'm going to come back to
disagree with that.
No, you can't. You can't disagree.
No, I can, and I do.
Ooh.
Okay, go. Your turn.
Cat fight.
Delay.
Delay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Delay. That's so delay.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear that, because you play a lot of ska / punk, kind of stuff, or at least that's what I've been hearing as of late, and that typically doesn't have a lot of it in it.
No. But, it's like what you can do with delay. So sometimes it's slap back, so that can add a little extra chunk if you're doing something like a ska rhythm or
Yeah, okay.
Anything of the ilk.
I get it. Slowing it down.
It just, I don't get it. I love the depth that delay can add to a lot of different things. And again, it doesn't have to be, delaying forever. What are you laughing at?
I'm not laughing.
You are.
Do you have a particular delay that's providing that for you right now?
Well, since I've sold all my effect pedals and stuff like that, it's just, honestly, the delayed...
You just want a delay again.
The delay designer and the Echo native VST plugins in Logic are very suitable. Stereo delay is also a really interesting one.
So for those who don't know, Aaron has relinquished a lot of his live type setup and is doing a lot of home recording and stuff. So that's where...
But I had a Line 6...
Hell of a yard sale that must have been, eh?
Yeah. Well, that's why I have a pedal steel now. But selling all that stuff.
Right.
I want to change mine to delay now.
But like solos and stuff like that, you know, even if you have overdrive or distortion on, I mean, it adds a little something beyond a reverb.
I think David Gilmour just gave you a big high five in his mind.
Probably not.
He's a delay master.
Well, he is a delay master, but
Hank, what do you have?
Well, I started thinking about this. I mean, I have a lot of delays and reverbs that I use quite a bit. That was going to be my answer.
oh, I'm sorry.
But no, I was just also looking at my pedal board thinking, okay, out of all these pedals, which one do I use the most? And the answer is it's a weird pedal. It's kind of more of a signal related pedal, but it's something I built a long time ago. It's called the underdrive.
Ooh.
So it's kind of the opposite. So it's basically a buffer with a master volume control on it. So if it's cranked, it's unity. So it's just straight up how my guitar sounds, that level. So I dial it back. So I play through a matchless, and like I set the amp to be like the ultimate distortion tone that I want for like leads.
Okay.
That's where it is like normally. And then I use the underdrive to kick on for rhythm.
That's awesome.
Now, how does that pan out when because you play Norwegian death metal, right?
Yeah. Totes.
He's sitting there right now with the makeup on.
What? I'm doing an interview.
Got to be in character. That's cool, man. Well, that sounds like a really. So does it kind of like lo-fi the signal, like?
Well, it's the same as like rolling your volume on your guitar down. So like normally when you roll your volume down, you start getting a little mud.
Yeah.
Starts to get a little not so good.
Yeah.
So with the buffer with the master volume in it, all my top end's still there when I roll down. But obviously I'm not like one of those guys who can roll their volume knob to 5 and like hit it exactly every time while I'm playing it. So I set like my underdrive to 5. When I kick it, it's like half my volume. Half my signal from my guitar goes into my pedal board, which cleans my amp out. Like it makes it, like on the matchless, it's really responsive that way. It sounds crystal clean almost.
That's interesting.
And then when I kick it off, and it's full glory, it's like, sounds awesome.
You got to market that sucker. You got to make those and sell them.
There's a few guys that make similar kind of things like that, but you know, I mean, it's kind of a reverse thinking because normally you have a kick-ass amp. And what do? You make it not so kick-ass so you can make it like a tube screamer, make it punch up.
Right.
And you're just like, why? Like your amp distortion is the best. It's better than any guitar pedal.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't you dial that in first?
Yep.
And then, if you want to go over the top, because I have multiple levels. I have the underdrive is my clean, off is my what I call like normal grit, and then I have a boost on top of that. So normally when I kick for a lead, I'll like turn my underdrive off and kick on the boost, like double whammy. But that way it's like rhythm and like loud parts. So it's like in the band when they're singing, I'm always got the underdrive on, and it's kind of clutch.
Because a lot of people
So
do
it's
that
weird,
with
but I use that pedal 10 times a song. I mean, it's like I'm hitting that all the time. So that's what I was starting to think about. Like, okay, I mean, delay I use all the time. I have reverbs and the drives, but it's like, okay, if I had to only take one pedal and go on tour, I could take one in the tuner. I'd probably take the underdrive because I use it all the time.
Because a lot of people use a volume pedal for that same effect, but I can see the lack of control. Like I want that exact level every time I step on.
That's pretty genius. What's just out of curiosity, what is another pedal that that you could mention that does that same thing?
It's like there's another pedal called the underdrive out there, but it's actually a drive pedal. It's not a true thing. But there's I swear it was Mad Professor or something had something like that. But it had a lot more stuff on it. I mean, it had like EQs and contour cuts and all sorts. I mean, I just want quieter signal,
Dude,
every time.
Go make that pedal, sell it.
Yeah,
I want to see it. Jay, what do you got going on?
So you guys are all guitarists. I'm a bass player. So if I had to pick one effect that I could live without, it would be like all effects, because
Okay, wait, what the hell are you talking about?
I don't use any effects, really. I run a clean
Very meta.
thing. I don't, man.
Like, you don't use like a Sans amp or nothing?
I use that Mesa
Nothing,
Boogie.
you just DI, straight up.
The Mesa, the amp does the work.
That's true.
Purist.
Bass,
Okay.
I mean, I've used the Sovtech Big Muff before, but not all the time. And it's kind of like, I just like the way that amp sounds.
Okay.
That's interesting,
The
because I mean,
walkabout.
I started on bass, and I've always considered myself sort of a minimalist when I switched over to focus more on guitar. It's like I've never really had that much invested in pedals.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I used to use an EQ pedal as a boost when I used to play upright and electric at the same time and run those to an ABC box, and the signals that got coming out of those pickups were a lot different, and I used to like match the upright to make it louder, but I don't really do that so much anymore, so I just go with the amp.
All right, so you got like reverb on that or anything? Nothing, just
Dude, the Mesa
bone dry.
Boogie doesn't need anything.
No.
It's beautiful. I agree with you, Hank. Your amp can be awesome.
So I'm gonna roll right into that to drive this home. I agree with it, using the amp to make it sound beautiful. I think when you first start out, you are suspect to just putting all that extra crap on it, and then your amp is like, well, thanks, bro. But now, my effect would be boost, because I can get a little bit of hair, or I can get a lot of hair, and crank a 20 dB boost.
You need some hair.
Yeah, I do. All the way up, and turn your amp down. You still, I like playing with that and getting a lot extra out of the amp that I'm not able to. And I thought about it. At first it was going to be like overdrive, and then I was like, nope, it's boost, because I still get the pure sound of the amp, but it just got teeth on it. I like that. From the people up top. Okay, well, hey, clearly my thing was so riveting. Everybody was.
What did you say?
Boost, whatever. Hank, dude, thank you so much. That we had a super fun time here.
Yeah,
and we all learned a lot, and I trust that, and everybody who's out there listening is learning quite a bit as well.
Yeah, so let's name drop again. Rattlesnake
Cables. Say anything. What's your outro there, Hank?
I need an outro. I don't know what to say to that. Hey, I don't know if it's time, but when this will drop. But I mean, right now I got a Rattlesnake Cable giveaway happening. They'll end. God, when's it going to end? The 29th, I believe.
29th of July.
Is that going to be enough time?
Oh yeah, we'll have this
up
out
here real quick. 29th of July, 2016, and they can enter that where?
Yep, rattlesnakecables.com/give-away/
Cool. So, and if you can't remember that, just go to rattlesnakecables.com. So awesome. Well, we will continue to look for your work out on Instagram and spread the love that we have for this anywhere around us. And we hope to hear from everybody on our social channels as well. If you like this, send us some feedback, send Hank some feedback, and adios. Thanks, guys.
Take it easy.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Hank.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please join us on Facebook.com/groups/guitar knobs to share your cool guitar stuff and thoughts on our episodes. We're on Twitter.com/guitar_knobs and also on Instagram @guitar knobs. If you'd like to buy one of our Guitar Knob t-shirts, come visit us at our website, guitarknobs.podbean.com.